Welcome aboard the Talent 2 and the RE18 to Dresden Hauptbahnhof from Cottbus. So let's prepare for our journey here. This one. Hoppala. Wrong switch. That. PCB Cipher. I need the dark mode. And gap. Door. Peep, peep, peep. So, welcome aboard the Talent 2. Again. Der Hamsterbacke. The disaster on the wheels. On the rails. Disaster with wheels. Could be both. Yeah. Yeah, the Talent 2. I don't like it at all. Has a passenger, and even if I'm looking at it as a driver, it's horrible. It's uncomfortable. It has a couple of malfunctions. The air conditioner is sometimes not working. Not the best one, to be honest. A few better multiple units which you could drive with it. Why is that, by the way? Yeah, the Talent 2, some know it already, it doesn't have the best history for operation. Even if you look up now in the internet, you can still find some information about the beautiful isolation in the cabin, as an example. Yeah, the isolation is really bad in the cabin. Funny story is if it rains, really, let's say normal rainy day, it's not recommended to put the bag on the floor here in the cabin, because the problem is the rims of the doors here, they have a hole where normal when the water goes beneath the cabin or beneath the hull. But the problem in this case is sometimes this hole it's full with dirt, and the problem is they didn't think about a kind of secondary hole or something like this, or did some kind of gum or whatever to block the water from coming into the cabin, and it results in it flooding out the cabin. It is also badly isolated if the air condition fails or the heater fails. And it means if the heater element fails, the cabin becomes really, really fast cold if you have also temperature like 0 degree Celsius. And also in the summer, if the air condition failed, the cabin becomes really, really hot, hot like hell. Which is not good, because the problem is if the cabin becomes too hot, the displays here in the cabin will stop working. That counts for the MTD, MFA, and for the Ebola for our timetable or Fahrplan display. If they become too hot, then we will stop operating, and you will have a slight problem to continue your journey. Sometimes there is a solution to just open the doors, but it's actually not allowed during a service because it's a safety risk. About the cabin we will talk a bit then if I have a slight time while we're doing driving. Well, the cabin itself, to be honest, it's not the most expensive one. It feels like cheaply made, full of plastic, and they didn't think through some things. Like here, if you want to use the PCB, the acknowledge button here, and the pantograph switch. Sometimes this really happens if you're driving and you want to pull the Wachsam, the acknowledge. It happens sometimes to turn the pantograph instead. It results in the e-brake and the question, why did you pull the wrong one? In some other bombardier locomotives and trains, it's the same thing. I don't know why they're thinking it was a good idea to put something like this directly next to something which you use most of the time or a lot of times. I have no idea really. About the Talent 2, how the brakes operate. It's pretty simple. It's like as with my brake tutorial. The regular pressure inside of the Talent 2 is like by all regular trains. It's the 5 bar for the brake pipes and 10 bars for the main reservoir. Nächster Halt, Priestewitz, Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung rechts. It also runs with an auxiliary compressor, which will support you if you have a cold startup without air, and a normal main compressor, which will turns on every time the pressure goes beneath the 9.5 bar, 8.5, sorry. The Talent is a little bit special. If you don't have the necessary pressure, it starts giving you your e-brakes. And it starts much earlier than coach-driven train. The Talent 2 e-brakes by the pressure beneath 7.2 already with an e-brake. So if you have only 7.2 in the main reservoir, the Talent will not operate. And you will not drive nowhere because the e-brake will be applied until you reach the necessary pressure or go above the 7.2. Oh, that's a slack problem as well. So, next up, one Böller. So about the switches here, you can see in this case a GSMR device for the digital radio. As you can see, I have trust issues with this PCB on this train. The PCB switches are self-explaining, like everywhere. The switches here on the right of the PCB is the brake test, the manual brake test button. You need in this case to slap in the parking brake and necessary pressure in the main brake pipe to operate, and the same with the main reservoir to operate the manual brake test. The manual brake test just fools a little bit the computer and tells him he's above a certain speed to test like the magnetic brakes in this case. The magnetic brakes by the Talent 2 comes down by above 17 km per hour. Beneath the 17, I will repeat it, 17 km per hour, the MMG brakes will not operate. So it should be already enough. Give the 120. So the rest is the parking brake, applying and releasing it again. The MTD on the left is the machine technical display. It's pretty much the same like in German, it's just technisches Display. Only a slight difference in this case. Beneath, as I already explained it, is the pantograph and the main circuit breaker. What is beneath the pantograph switch is the cruise control. This train has a cruise control, but the accuracy of the cruise control is not really given. It goes mostly 5 km/h above the set speed. It shouldn't be used that much, in my opinion. Funny thing is, you can still stop with this cruise control to a full stop, but it's not allowed to. Because it's only there to keep the speed up. For up and down, putting up and down the tempomat or cruise control in this case, you put it up with this kind of switch. It goes up like 5 km/h, up and down. Here, you can try it. Normally you set it like this and then let it operate. The best will be to set it 5 km beneath the current speed limit of the route. So the next switch is the train lights. You can put it on or off if you want to. The cabin lights, I've explaining. The sender. The sender by the Talent 2 has a fixed position. A little funny story. Rule-wise, if you have used the sender beneath a certain speed, you have to report it to the signaler, because the reason is, if you use the send, there is a slight chance you isolated yourself from the contacts in the rails or the axle counters, which means you will disappear from the radar of the signaler. And yeah. The problem is here you have a fixed position. Sometimes there are people are forgetting to release it to the normal position again, and then it happens. You can isolate yourself with it. This right one is self-explaining. That's for the light, Fernlicht and Fernlicht, Abblenden, normal lights. Yeah, if you pull it to the driver, there is the possibility to turn it off, and in case if the tail lights are not operating properly, you can use it manually with this switch. The tail lights goes automatically on if you normally deactivate the cabin and pull the key. For the key here, you have the master key here. The key has 4 positions. One is for local disconnecting or decoupling the units. One, the 0 self-explaining for deactivating. One for activating. And that one on the right is for remote decoupling, which means if you have a unit behind you, you can decoupling from this cabin, but you don't have to go to the local cabin there. You can disconnect it from here, but you have to use the display and follow the steps in this case. The indirect brake here is the train brake. You cannot operate the train brake together with the dynamic brake. The reason is it prevents it from the unit from overbraking. I find it really weird in some cases, but well, it's Bombardier, who knows. The funny thing is, it's called normally FB11, FB11, and you can also in real life remove this lever if you want to and if you find it necessary. About the 2 buttons here, those are not buttons, that's both of an indicator. One is the indicator for fire alert, the other is an indicator for system malfunctions, like an inverter. Went out of action, which restricts the train to 140 km/h. The train, if it detects a malfunction which could harm somehow or or could harm your operating state or safety state. It could happen to restrict yourself. It restricts itself then to a certain speed to prevent damage. The horns are self-explaining, deep and high. The doors, well, I don't know why we have here only one gap is coming out, and that's, I don't get it why it has two. The door system which we are operating in this case is also the TAF system, technisches Abfertigungsverfahren, technikbasiertes Abfertigungsverfahren. The brakes of the Intelligent. You have the right switch in this case, so halt erwarten. Better to approach the station or the platform slowly than to overshoot it altogether. Yeah, the doors, quick explanation, left to open and close, and for the left, to open and close the left doors, to open and close the right doors. And this one is the so-called, like by the last time I explained it on the Dosters, it's the forced closing of the doors. It should be only used if you have a problem. If you use this button in real life, it deactivates the light barriers inside of the doors. And the doors will close even if someone is inside. But don't worry, the protections in the other protection systems are still operational. That means if something is between the door, it will react to it and will open the door again. If it hits some kind of, let's say, human or whatever. Funny story is the light barriers of the doors even react to snowflakes. Yes, to really big snowflakes, the doors go open again. There's also a little protection system which is called Schließkantenüberwachung. It controls the edges of the doors. If there's some kind of leash or something, you will get a direct e-brake from the unit. And you have to confirm this on the display, and also to go to the door and remove the leash or whatever stuck in there. So green. Let's go again. 120, but we are approaching Cosmic. Yeah, the covered up buttons are for Räumfahrt und Traktionsüberbrückung. Those are only used if you have a malfunction and a problem you cannot get the train moving. The traction override is a little bit funny. If you override the traction, you can actually drive with open doors then. By the way, you have a similar button for other tough locomotives and units, or even cabs. But as I said already, it's only used to malfunction. Here we have the speaker system for outside, inside intercom, and Ausblenden is for pretty simple. You can disable, a little bit going fast in this case. You can disable the intercom system of those units if you have, like here, two units and I want to only to speak to the second unit, then I will just here hit Zug 1 and then we'll start talking with it. We'll just start talking and only the second unit will hear me. That's pretty easy. The other one is N for talking with the Sprechstellen. You're approaching Cottbus. God, I love the East. Dark shunting signals. Ah. The West Germany driver. What the hell is going on here? Nächster Halt, Cottbus. Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung rechts. And if you're another little a little advice, if you're not sure how long your train is, just stop at the end of the platform. Yes, the people have to walk then, but at least you don't land with some of the doors in the dirt. So, fast explanation. The Sprechstelle, yeah, it's not the guard bar, that's not the guard buzzer. It would be fine, but it's only used if you are talking with the other ones. Führerräume is for talking to from cab to cab. Automission is Ansage Ausstiegsseite. It's from the passenger information system. If you want to talk with the other one, if you want to announce the exit, the side where the passenger should exit, in front of, I think, 2 kilometers or something, it will start flashing, and then you will click, and then you will hit this button, and it will announce the right side where the doors open. If you actually miss this, to hit it, if you approach the station, but just open the doors, it will announce the sides, announce the sides anyway. If you open then the door, if you have other operating passenger information system, which is sometimes, yeah, also not working. But that's because sometimes the passenger information software is sometimes really buggy and not working like it should do. So the test is for testing the indicators. And beneath everything there is in both switches here is the emergency brake override system. Oh, halt erwarten. I'm wondering why I'm not that light. Yeah. Normally this switch should be by the talent tool in middle position for turning it on. The right position is for testing the system. Did it switch? It's turned assume something that's never try to guess a signal. Don't accelerate until you are really certain you can accelerate. It's green and you can accelerate to the speed, to the allowed speed again. Like this. In this case, I had danger ahead, and now I have green again. And then free myself again. So 100 there. Yeah, and the rest is for heating and air condition. How you set is your problem in real life. Yeah, and if you hit this button, by the way, you can override the emergency brake if you have one in your unit. It's mainly used if you enter a tunnel or a bridge, where you can badly or have a bad in case of an emergency. If you can continue. Yeah, and the other buttons and other switches are self-explaining. Räumfahrt and Abschleppbetrieb. Räumfahrt is what I said already. It's to get the train away if you have a malfunction. It operates then only with backup system, more or less. Abschleppbetrieb is mainly used if you have to tow the train away. Störschalter, it's normally in position aus, and it's, by the way, even sealed because it shouldn't be disabled on purpose. PCB Überbrückungsbremse is for the PCB brake circuit. You have a circuit inside which we call Schnellbremsschleife, and this switch overrides it. If you have a problem to release the PCB brake, you can override it with this switch here. PCB Störschalter should be in aus as well. And energieoptimiert abgestellt. It's a indicator which is kind of funny and used for like a stone. You can even test it. I have no idea why, because it doesn't make sense and it's even helpful. The reason for this is pretty simple. The talent 2 have different states. The vehicle states, and in certain states there is a function where you can automatically set it it can partly prepares itself for service. You can set a timer and a timer for an automatic brake test, or we call it limb test. Lime inverter module, it's called. LIM is line inverter module. And in this lime inverter module test, it runs a short test for running the main circuit breaker and other electrical systems to operate it. This also includes some systems like the auxiliary converter module and motor converter module, which are also tested. I should braking slowly. If I'm delayed, I have no idea. Yeah, funny story about the doors. The doors itself are not really that sturdy. There's a small problem. You have sometimes the small problems if a fast passing train passes you with your talent 2. The little tier you have here for the tough system goes as let's say off. Disappears for a second sometimes, and that is also to report. But that's like it never happened to me at all. Why didn't I slow down? I had too much talking sometimes. I'm on my way, I'm on my way, I'm on my way to Dresden Neustadt. So, to make sure the PCB is operating properly. And the rest of the switches is Quittierung Zugabriss ZG2. Zugabriss is an unwanted disconnecting from another unit. It happens from time to time. You have to pull this. There's a red. Sadly, I cannot see it from this side. Yeah, this works better. Is there even one? Yes, there's one. Here, that one. There's a red handle, and if you pull this one, it's like trying to start up a lawn mover. If you do that, you have an unwanted disconnecting from another unit, and that's why you have then to acknowledge this that switch here to get back your tail lights. That's ZG2 Schlusssignal. Nächste Station Dresden Neustadt. Übergang zum Fernverkehr sowie zur S-Bahn. Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung rechts. Yes, I'm bored sometimes. Yeah, and by the way, what you hear here by the brake, sometimes this is I guess they try to imply the blending of a multiple unit. Multiple unit like the Talent 2, some of them at least, not all. I don't know if this all, how many this does it. Operate with a so-called brake blending. Which means it operates the brakes how you wanted it. Let me tell it. Easy way to explain it: you want a full brake, you want to only brake slightly a bit to reduce the speed. As long you're not going to, let's say, 20% of applying the brakes, it will only operate the dynamic brake. If you go like 80, to apply the or 80% of brake application, then the brake computer unit, which is here called BCU, will tell the brakes to apply a bit of air to get more brake force in this case. You have in the most modern units, you have a brake computer, which you can also, by the way, reset if you have a problem, if you have a software problem sometimes. Yeah, you can reset it once, but if the problem appears again, then you have definitely a problem with your brakes. In most cases, you can disable the brakes in those units, but to the problem, if you have a problem with the brakes and like let's say you have the disabled magnetic brake, you will lose a lot of brake percentage, and sometimes the loss of this brake percentage can cause to have reduced speed. Because if you have brake percentage and they are not more than required from the timetable, then you have to call the dispatcher from the DB Netz, and he will give you a little pay, and he will tell you a little paper, and then you will get a little story, and you will bite the dust more or less, and you will hate your life, because in the most situation you have a lot of reduced speed than ahead of you. And with more percentage you lost through disabling a brake, the slower you have to drive. Dresden Mitte. Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung links. I love you too, Siva. Oops. That wasn't a soft break. So it's like overview over the buttons on beneath. Trafo Trenner is for the transformer inside. Der Air Conditioner ist, Klimaanlage ist Air Conditioner, self-explaining, Türfreigabe für ohne letzte or alle ohne erste. That's for disabling one of the doors in the units for most of the last one or the first one. Some have an extra setting here for both, for the first and last one. It's only used if you have a platform which is too short. And LCB, never seen a talent tube with a rocking. That's something someone put in there for fun. So yeah, by the way, if you ask yourself where the most of the electrical equipment is, it's pretty easy. The most electrical equipment on the Talent 2 is on the roof. With the exception, there's like deviation through the units if you have a 4-part unit or a 3-part unit or 5-part unit or even 6-part unit. By the 3-part unit, except the compressor, the most parts are on the roof. Like the air conditions and air conditions for the cab and the air conditions for the passengers, and also for the main circuit breaker. That's the funny part. By the 4-part Talent 2, the main compressor is on the roof. By the 3-part, the main compressor is here. Yeah, if we come to the full sensor, then we'll go through a few things. Sehr geehrte Fahrgäste, in wenigen Minuten erreichen wir Dresden Hauptbahnhof. Dies ist die Endstation, wir bitten Sie alle auszusteigen. Im Namen von DB Regio wünschen wir Ihnen noch einen angenehmen Tag. Der Ausstieg in Dresden Hauptbahnhof ist in Fahrtrichtung. And drums are playing left. Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung links. I keep rolling, they see me rolling, and the buffer stop is coming up. By some, there's a funny thing, if you hit a buffer stop bias, with some MUs it could happen you have an unwanted disconnection, even if you are not coupled there. Let it roll. So yeah, a quick explanation about the rest here. Ja, alle Schiebetritte. Alle Schiebetritte aus. Okay, the gaps are not coming out. Funny thing. Yeah. In some case, if you for the brake computer unit, if you have if you want to know where the brake computer unit is by the Talent 2, it's behind here. In real life, you can open it up. There is a small computer, there's a lot of shit ton of computers. And inside there's a brake computer unit with 3 buttons, and yeah, you can, if you hit then the button S3, you can reset the computer. Behind this, behind the battery board here, there's also, depending on the cap, a key for the pantograph, which is necessary if you want to ground the Talent 2. And grounding the Talent 2, well, it's like starting up an old-timer. It's something which will kill your muscles and your head at the same time, because it's really stressful to ground the vehicle. If you have a problem, by the way, with one of the computers here inside, all the switches and fuses for it to reset it are inside here. On the left side, there's mostly nothing, but there's empty space. I think it could be used for if you have additional equipment, if you have an LCB. And as I said already, here's the air condition. That's the air condition for... No, I don't want to. For the cabin. In this case. Then you have the air conditions for the passenger information system, for the passengers, in this case for the passenger. Stromrichter, the 3-part Talent 2, by the way, got only 2000 kilowatt. Only the 4-part, 5-part got 3000 kilowatt, and the 6-part Talent 2 got 4000 kilowatt power. It's always the same. The 3-part Talent 2 got only 2 motors, the 4-part got 3 motors, 5-part got 3 motors, and the 6-part got 4 motors. In this case, the only motors you have is here and here in the first bogie and the last bogie. The Jacobi bogies are self-explaining itself. Yeah. That's the and here do I have the pantograph. The pantograph naturally with vacuum main circuit breaker, which doesn't let you ignite a spark there. And here's one of the important parts here inside of this unit is then the so-called Stromrichter, which is the Lime inverter module inside, which is really necessary for the main circuit breaker for the power and to operate even this beast here. Disabling brakes is relatively easy. They're mostly here and here beneath the seats. There are boards and covers, and if you can open them up. The toilet is another funny story. I hate the toilets of the Talent 2. They're showing every malfunction. If you have a malfunction with the toilet, they are also going up in the display. The Talent 2 got an operational system which is called wired train bus system, and the cables, there's so many cables in this, so many cables in those units. I guess you can span around in a church, a really big church, maybe like here in, like the Frauenkirche in Dresden as an example. It will fit a lot of cables in here. The doors itself, as I explained already, are pretty much protected with every system. If the doors are not fully closed, there are contacts inside, which if you get down, if they're not inside of the contacts, you will not go anywhere because you will have a traction lock and you will not be able to put power on the unit. The same, by the way, is with the gaps here. The movable gaps, they have a switch here inside. It goes in and connects with some kind of switch inside, which will give the gap if it's inside. As I said already, every one of those doors have also a secondary. You can open a secondary board there, and then you can disable the door completely. And also those contacts. You can override pretty much everything in in here everything in this train, if you want to. No. The numbers. Länge Überkupplung. Look. Yeah. The revision date for the main inspection. The length of the train. And here's the brake system you have. The Knorrbremse computergesteuert, elektrisch, pneumatisch, with brake mode R. Automatic brake wake, electric, and MG brakes, magnetic brakes, and discos for disc brakes, and that one is for the emergency brake override system. The tonnage for this train and the maximum tonnage of the system, and here the normal weight with the places you have. Something I missed something here. Let me manually close. Yeah, normally, sorry, my fault. I'm dumb as fuck. No, I did this, I said something wrong. You have, by the way, another brake weight in those Talent 2s. Pardon me. You have another brake weight in those Talent 2s. Because if you have to tow this little toy, you have to disable the electric pneumatic brakes in this case. And parking brakes, and then you have only operational the air brakes and the brake weight in this case, but it's still something wrong here. You have a brake weight normally, which is then for the brake mode P, for passenger only. Because you have disabled every system, that's only for a fallback level, and then you have to account the brake weight from it. And the brake mode P is then much less brake weight than like it would be fully operational. And that sometimes the people keep forgetting. I guess that was for now from the Talent to all. Maybe I will do more deep technical details and talk about more. You can still ask a few questions if you have one beneath the comments if you want to. And if you are interested, keep it off of my channel. Otherwise, maybe I will do some fun rides even without talking about technical details in the future. So, closing the door, finishing the service, and going home and smoke a cigarette and drink a beer. Like it should do. Did I close the door? I don't know why I do this. Hey, I closed the door! Or did it be the wrong one? I wish you a nice day, by the way.